Okay, shalom. Right, really interesting lesson. For who in the heavens is equal to Yod He Vav He? This is taken from Psalm 89, and we're going to be having a look at this in the context of Moshiach Ben Yosef primarily, but also there is indications to a link to the concept of Metatron. Okay. Right, so we've got the verse. For who in the heavens is equal to the Lord? Who resembles the Lord among the sons of the mighty? The reason why I did an analysis is because we were reading it one Shabbos, and I noticed that the initial letters are Moshiach Ben Yosef. So I thought, okay, so that's worthy of an analysis, because I know there's a few times in the book called Torah, which is written, well, it's the teachings of the Vilna Gaon. He does make reference to places within the Tanakh where the initial letters are the same initial letters for Moshiach Ben Yosef. So let's go and have a look, because this is an incredible revelation that we need for such a time as this. So first of all, mi b'shachach ya'arach. Who is in the heavens? Who in the heavens is equal? So these are just these three words here. I do go and have a look at this whole statement eventually, but for just these three words here, we've got 760 plus 130 plus 890. I think we're probably going to have a look at them first. Obviously there's the Mispar Gadol, because you've got a calf sofit. So that changes from 20 to 500. So obviously the numbers are bigger. What's called the Mispar Gadol means a big numbering based on the fact that we've got the sofit letters. And then these are just the two different, the regular, and then the regular for the Mispar Gadol, and the ordinal added together, etc., etc. So we're just primarily looking at the numbers highlighted, but these are just combinations and additions between these two various ways of numbering this particular statement from Psalms. Okay, so your testimonies are faithful, 109. The testimonies are faithful. It's this number, isn't it? It's the leprosy, Tzaharath, that equals 760 equals Tzaharath. I don't think the 109, just wait a minute, do a quick calculation just to make sure I'm not going crazy. No, that shouldn't be highlighted in pink, by the way. It's this one that we're looking at, because there's no relation. I usually colour coordinate it. I think I'll just quickly go change it. Okay, so this equals 760, and it's linked to leprosy, because within the verses of Torah regarding leprosy, there's a very powerful relation. There's a very, very powerful revelation that Yeshua is the Moshiach Ben Yosef, and basically the coding is, we're told in the Talmud that a leper from the house of the Rebbe, which is Yehuda Anisi, is his name. Okay, so this is a coded message in Talmud. I've talked about it a lot, and I've got a lot of teachings. If you go search my teachings for leprosy, you'll get some teachings, or leprous Moshiach, you'll get some teachings regarding the verses in Torah, which are very, very illuminating, very, very revealing, and that clearly indicate who the Moshiach is. The Moshiach is who this Moshiach is that's the leper. It's what's revealed in the verses of Torah. So these testimonies are faithful. The testimonies regarding the Moshiach that is contained in the verses of leprosy. And who is the Moshiach revealed? It's Yeshua, because who, Tzaharath, it is leprosy, equals 772, which is 2 times 386, which is 2 times Yeshua. Okay, and that's just one of multiple indications within those verses in Torah which contain, the commandments regarding leprosy. So we've got leprosy again down there. Look, I've just highlighted it again. It's very significant, very, very important concept, because it basically reveals who the Moshiach is. Okay, so we've also got this, the 130, Moshiach Ben David, that is the regular and ordinal of Moshiach Ben David, when David is spelled with a daleth, vav, daleth. Sometimes it got an additional yud when it's rectified. If we add on to that the actual spelling of David, which is 14, it comes to 520, which is 4 times 130, 4 times ayin, which this is the missing letter from Yeshua's name when he's cursed. Yeshu is his curse. He's had his name erased and his memory erased from within rabbinical Judaism, so they deny that he's Moshiach, but obviously he is the Moshiach. But it's part of the whole process of revelation from below, the work that we have to reveal the light of Moshiach Ben Yosef below. Okay, overcoming our doubts and overcoming all the sheker and the confusion and all the the negativity. But he is the Moshiach. He's the Moshiach of Yod He Vav He, as revealed in the Torah very clearly. Okay, 4 times 130. When I say the letter ayin, this is the letter ayin spelt out as it sounds. So ayin also means eye. We've got to be able to see. There's a blindness regarding the concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef. It's very difficult to see clearly because there's so much obscurity. Like, for example, the last 2,000 years of Christian history is a big obscurity from a Jewish perspective, especially when you're going around killing Jews. There is a lot to obscure this truth. There's a lot to obscure this truth, and plus the era domination of rabbinical Judaism, which basically is, there's a lot of lies that need decoding from within the Jewish faith. Okay, so for God had taken him. So this is the link to Enoch, and this therefore the link to Metatron. So obviously, I've talked about this before. Metatron is in place until we fully reveal the concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef, until we fully restore the channel, what's called Yesod, part of the tree of life. Before we fully restore that channel that channels the light from the name Yod He Vav He, from the abundance from his name down to earth. Okay, from anyway, I don't need to go over that. I've gone through that a lot in the teachings of Metatron. I did a big one on 3-hour teaching on Metatron, and I go through this concept a lot, how Metatronic worship is in place instead of worshipping Yod He Vav He through the concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef. We worship Yod He Vav He through the concept of Metatron. In fact, most people in this world at this time, their understanding of who God is no more than Metatron. It's Metatron that they are understanding. They have not got access to the tree of life, the name Yod He Vav He. And it's just a simple fact. If you go watch the video on Metatron, the 3-hour video, you'll soon see how most people's understanding of God at this time is Metatronic. It's not messianic. It's based on lies and delusion and concealment regarding the concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef, and therefore concealment of the name Yod He Vav He. So that channel is very much restricted. We should have the full revelation of Moshiach Ben Yosef, Od Yosef Chai, and we should have full access to the divine abundance that is brought forth from the name Yod He Vav He, but we don't. We have concealment that puts Yosef in a state of exile, that is not known to his brothers. There's no unity, and therefore Metatron's in place all the while Yosef's in exile, suffering with us, and that's synonymous with Yeshua in Edomite exile, suffering with us until his Jewish brothers recognize Od Yosef Chai, and then this reestablishes the channel between heaven and earth, because it's the truth, and Yaakov is revived with the truth, and Yaakov symbolizes the truth and the heavens, and we are wanting an outflow from the heavens down to earth. We're wanting to receive the revelation of the name Yod He Vav He, and in order to get that light from above to below, there has to be a channel in place. And when we are in a state where Yeshua is not fully recognized, he's not even fully recognized with the Christians. They've got this idol worship, it's basic idol worship, and it's a demonic understanding of Moshiach Ben Yosef, even though their souls have been touched with the truth. Once it gets into the Edomite exile and the Roman exile and the exile that the church represents, it all becomes distorted. So they have not got a clear understanding of the concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef and what Yod He Vav He is trying to do. It's all jumbled up with idol worship, and therefore usually in place of the truth about Moshiach Ben Yosef is is Metatron, or Yosef in disguise. It's not the concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef as revealed in the Torah. There's a big difference. Okay, so that's why Metatron and Enoch. This is why this is related to this. Who is in the heavens is equal. Well, it should be Moshiach Ben Yosef, Moshiach Ben David. It should be the concept of the Moshiach as the channel between heaven and earth, but we've got something there instead. Okay, and that's got a mispar gadol of ordinal of 141, which is Emunah, because we are in this process of exile to correct our Emunah. Once our Emunah is fully corrected, our Emunah in the coming of the Mashiach and our Emunah in the resurrection of the dead, two aspects of Emunah that are in this, we're in this two millennia of the Messianic era, and want to complete these two aspects of faith in the coming of Mashiach, the true Mashiach, the Mashiach of Yod He Vav as revealed in the mind of Yod He Vav, which is his Torah, and not within the exilic religions of Judaism, Islam and Christianity, but in truth, okay, as revealed in truth through what we're able to perceive with a Hebraic mindset that is not enslaved to any of these religious mindsets that dominate at this time. Okay, and they're each and every one of them proclaiming that they are the truth and the others are lies, and all this. They all contain a great light and a great revelation, and they have a great purpose. I am not denying that. Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. But the ultimate end is for us to break free from the exilic mindsets that dominate, the Ishmaelite mindset, the Greco-Roman mindset of the Christian faith, the Ishmaelite mindset of Islam, I should have said, and then the Erev Rav mindset of Judaism. They all need defeating and overcoming, and we all need a Hebraic mindset in order to perceive the truth regarding Moshiach Ben Yosef and the truth regarding the Torah. It needs to be divested of as exilic influences that only fuel our ego. We've got to be humble like Yosef. He was a Hebrew, like Jonah, he was a Hebrew. Okay, we've got to, and these are two very powerful forces, Hebraic forces we need to connect to in order to attain that Hebraic mindset, which is able to perceive true reality, as opposed to believing that the concealment is the revelation, which is the situation that we're in now. Okay, the supreme will is ultimately the tree of life. It's the 10 Sefirot, but ultimately that is really manifestation of a man. Which man? Adam, and specifically it's an the 10 Sefirot, which are the will of God, is very much connected to a revelation of Mashiach, because like I say, it's the tree of life, and the tree of life is in the configuration of a man, Adam. Okay, Adam Kadmon, the first man, but we are waiting to reveal the last Adam, which would be Moshiach Ben David. Okay, so that's 130. The ordinal of that is 130. That's a very significant number, comes up all the time. Don't think we'll be going through it now. Because he was a son of his old age, so Yaakov loves more Yosef. Well, it actually says Israel. I think it's Israel loves Yosef more than all of his other sons because he's a son of his old age. So that comes to 130. Okay, this was a problem. This caused, ultimately, we're talking about 130 representing the ayin, that jealousy and hatred because Israel loved Yosef more, was probably the source of him having his name erased. You know, Yosef was more beloved, because he was a son of his old age, but there was consequences to that, where because of this he ended up having the letter Ayin. Yeshua ended up having the letter Ayin removed from his name, and degraded and disgraced and put into exile. Not he's not just in exile within the Christian church, but he was put into exile by his own brothers. You know, they sentenced him to death, the corrupt Sanhedrin. He pleaded not to have to go into this Edomite exile. He pleaded till he sweat blood. That is a sign of a Moshiach, by the way. Moshe pleaded to go into the land of Israel. He didn't want to be left in exile, exiled into the Erev Rav dominion. Okay, he didn't want to suffer seeing his Jewish brothers and sisters. He's suffering because the Jews are so influenced by these powerful demonic forces, and Moshe didn't want that. He wanted them to be able to perceive the true Torah of Moshe that was revealed through Moshe. The name Yod-Heh-Vav is revealed through Moshe, but instead they've ended up with Erev Rav domination, and that's rabbinic Judaism of today. Is Erev Rav dominated completely, totally. It has been since Moshe was exiled. I think it's 3,293 years ago. Okay, as of Pesach 2021. So this has been a long time. Moshe has been suffering a long time. Yeshua has been suffering a long time. Yeshua also begged and pleaded. That's a sign of Mashiach. They didn't willingly go into exile. They wanted, for the sake of the believers, for the sake of the house of Israel, to not have to descend, for not their Torah and their teaching, the revelation of the name Yod-Heh-Vav, to descend into such depths and depravity. But it was the will of Yod-Heh-Vav. It was the supreme will that all this happened. Why? Because through that process of descent, there will ultimately be an ascent. Okay, this is the resurrection from the dead. You know, Adam died and he fell, and then he will go through a process of elevation and resurrection. He fell, and then he will be finally elevated, and all humanity elevated with him in the last Adam, which is Moshiach Ben Yosef. So we're all part of this process of rectification. Okay, so don't forget it's the will of Yod-Heh-Vav. So we can't point fingers and say, oh, you're to blame. No, Yod-Heh-Vav gives us a work to do. He's caused us to toil for that ultimate revelation, the revelation of the inner and outer aspects of his name, which come via Moshe, who is the outer aspect of the name Yod-Heh-Vav as revealed in the letter of the law, the name Yod-Heh-Vav as revealed through the letter of the law, and Yeshua, which is a Torah of Moshiach, is the revelation of the name Yod-Heh-Vav as revealed above the letter of the law. Okay, the higher levels of mercy. Why? Because the children of Israel that was lost in the nations were without merit, according to the Torah. They had to have a revelation of the name Yod-Heh-Vav above the letter of the law, and that was given access to them through Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay, King David will unite those two together. The two sticks will come together in Moshiach Ben Yosef, and we'll have one shepherd, and it will be over all humanity. Okay, so all this process that we've been in is just about, the whole process of this last 6,000 years is to ultimately reveal the name. The inner and outer names of Yod-Heh-Vav are perfectly united together. There's lots of forces that come against that, lots of forces of concealment. Can you find out the mystery of God? So yes, the mystery of God is this removal of the Ayin from the name of the Mashiach, Yeshua, and the whole hiding of the concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef. All Moshiach Ben Yosef in exile, with this name and his memory erased, and this whole channel between heaven and earth greatly reduced on account of this, and then the whole process of rectification of faith that we need to go through in order to re-establish the truth regarding the Mashiach and the truth regarding the resurrection of the dead, and to see that flow open from above to below, and to gain the vessels of shalom in order for us to fill up with that light that Yod-Heh-Vav desires to bestow upon us. And the light he desires to bestow upon us is a revelation, is his oneness. What is his oneness? That there's no other authority in this world other than him. He designed everything. All the forces of exile, it was by his supreme will that it be so, in order for all humanity to rise up in Moshiach, okay, even higher than what we were before the fall. Right, missing letter Ayin, okay, which also means I. We need to be able to see what's before us. We need to be able to perceive. We need to be able to look at these 6,000 years, and specifically these last 2,000 years since Yeshua has been dead. He's been dead now 1,988 years according to the calculations, astronomical calculations of Sir Isaac Newton, you know, we're very close to the end of those 2,000 years that are synonymous with the 2 years that Yosef had to fulfill in the pit after he'd cried out and demonstrated the lack of faith to the cupbearer, remember me and take me out of here. For those 2 words that he cried, remember me and take me out, he spent an additional 2 years forgotten and not taken out until his faith in Yod Heh Vav Heh was corrected. We are correcting 2 aspects of faith in these 2 millennia. For that was Yosef to correct his faith. We are correcting our faith in the name Yod Heh Vav Heh at the highest levels possible. Okay, the highest levels possible. All humanity. All humanity. Okay, so it's even related to this. Look, take me out. This was one of the words uttered by Yosef. That comes to 650, which is a very significant number. So it's 568. This is a very significant number. We will come across it in this teaching, actually. Very, very, very powerful. Very much connected to a revelation of the Moshiach. Very much connected to the ordinal of the books of the Torah. All 5 books of Torah, which the ordinal of the books of Torah to do with Moshiach Ben Yosef. It's such a wonderful number. It really is. We will come across it, like I say. 82 is Moshiach Ben David, the ordinal of Moshiach Ben David, spelt out. So just put MBD there, because I come across this number all the time. Anybody who's watched my teachings, the number 82 comes up all the time. Okay, and I've put that 681 is 8 times 71. 71 is Yonah, and Yonah is the sign, the only sign that Moshiach Ben Yosef gave to a wicked and adulterous generation, which is this generation, by the way. We are the most wicked and we are the most adulterous. We have fallen the furthest away from that light that we initially received when we were born again. When the soul of Moshiach touched our soul, we couldn't be further away. We have become, you know, we're totally, compared to the light that we received, the way that we live our lives now, we are the wicked and adulterous generation that he spoke of. So we need the sign of Yonah. And Yonah means Jonah, and it also means dove. And this sign is in everywhere you look when it comes to the revelation of Moshiach Ben Yosef. Okay? Everywhere you look, it is this sign of Yonah. So we've got it there. It's just everywhere. And he said, for there's a hand on the throne of the eternal. So that's 496, which is very significant. We will come across that number again because it's related to a revelation of Moshiach Ben David. Very, very, very powerfully related to Moshiach Ben David. And he said, for there is a hand on the throne of the eternal. The hand, by the way, is the hand of Amalek. This is the doubt concerning Moshiach Ben Yosef that we've all got to battle with. Olam Haba, whether we're Jewish, if from Islam, Muslims or Christians, there's all doubt regarding Moshiach Ben Yosef, the concept of Mashiach. Okay? Because we've all got part of the truth, but not all of the truth. So we all suspect when somebody's saying something else about the Moshiach Ben Yosef, we all suspect that they are like false prophets, false messiahs, you know, something other than Yod Heh Vav Heh, but they all contain the light. Yes, there are all elements of lies within each of the main religions, but there's also revelations of the truth. Concealment and revelation is a mixture. There's a mixture within Judaism, there's a mixture within Christianity, there's a mixture within Islam. We've got to have Hebraic minds, because Hebraic minds are being able to discern the truth, what's the light and what's the dark, being able to sort between light and dark. Okay, so there's a lot of doubts. Doubts is part of the concealment. Sheker is part of the concealment. And we need the power of Yonah to overcome those, and we need the power of Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet. So 154 is Olam Haba, the world to come. Okay, which is the 8th millennium, after we've had our 1,000 years of Shabbat. 650 is 5 times 130. We've already pointed that out. Okay, 5 times ayin, rectification of the missing letter ayin. It's also 10 times mezuzah. The Sheikh is very deeply connected to the concept of mezuzah, the gate to the name Yod Heh Vav Heh. Okay, so there's every single last thing that you can look at regarding the mezuzah is connected to the concept of Mashiach, and it very clearly points to a revelation also of Moshiach Ben Yosef. I've gone over the concept of mezuzah a lot. When I said gate to the name Yod He Vav He, at this time we can't pronounce the name Yod He Vav He. We have a gate that we use to access that name. The gate is called Adonai. So Adonai is 2.5 times, sorry, Yod He Vav He is 2.5 times the word Adonai. So Adonai is 65, exactly the same as a mezuzah. The mezuzah comes to 65. So we have got this gate that we have to go through to access the name Yod He Vav He. We have a gate that we have to go through to access that light of the name Yod He Vav He. It's called Moshiach. Okay, and primarily it's Moshiach Ben Yosef, because in that light we see the light of Yod He Vav He. But it's really a united concept of all the concepts of Moshiach. It's Moshe, the body of the bird, Moshiach Ben Yosef, the left wing of the bird, joy, and Moshiach Ben David, the right wing of the bird. What bird? A dove, Yonah. That's the sign that we need, each unity between the concept of Moshiachim. And also, there's the 2.5 tribes that are on the eastern side of the Jordan, the River Jordan. Okay, the 2.5 tribes that wanted, the tribes of Gad and Manasseh and things like that, they wanted to be on the other side. Half tribe of Manasseh, Gad and Reuben wanted to be on the other side, the eastern side of Jordan. So they are like a gateway into the actual proper land of Israel, Israel proper, you know. So all these things are to bear in mind. It's all glorious revelation, by the way. So Yosef squared is also 650. So if you take each letter and square it, so Yod is 10, square it 100, Vav is 6, square it 36, Samech 15, square it 225, and then Pei squared. Add them all together, 289 Pei squared comes 650. Jerusalem plus Zion, we've got this 82 again, haven't we? These are the regulars, these are the ordinals. So 82 is Moshiach Ben Yosef, 48 is Yosef. Okay, 156 is also Yosef, because that's why Zion is an appellation for Yosef. Jerusalem is very much connected with the revelation of Moshiach Ben David. Got to unite them both together. Okay, united them both together, that's Moshiach Ben David, as we can see somewhere up here. Where did I write? Moshiach Ben David, the ordinal of Moshiach Ben David is 82. So we can see that's related to Jerusalem, and Zion is related to Yosef. Both the regular of Zion is equal to Yosef, and the ordinal of Zion is exactly the same as the ordinal for Yosef, 48. So united together, like I say, it's all about unity of Moshiachim, so that we can see the truth. We can see the truth. This is Ayin, which means I. 130 is the letter Ayin filled out, missing from Yeshua's name. It's also I. We need to be able to perceive truth in reality. I have surely remembered. Okay, so this is now the 890 of who's equal in heavens. Who's equal in heavens is very related to Pokote. This is from this week's Torah portion, by the way, Shemot. Pokote, I've just been reading that. These are the words that are uttered by Moshe, and they were a sign and a code given to the children of Israel to allow them to know that he was the Redeemer. And it was Sarach bat Asher, who is one of the 5 aspects of salvation, one of the 5 strong petals that are talked about that surround the 13 petals of the rose, which is Knesset Yisrael, so the 13 tribes in total. Pokote, I have surely remembered you. Sarach bat Asher knew that these were the codes that the Redeemer would say. They're very much also related to what Yosef said, and he adjured the children of Israel to take his bones out of here. He says, when God will surely remember you, remember to take my bones out with you. Okay, so it's very much related to that as well. So the regular comes to 778, the ordinal 112, which is exactly the same as the name Yod He Vav He Elohim, which is the unity between heaven and earth, which is what we wanting to achieve. Unity, we want in the unity between heaven and earth, and the flow between that to be fully opened up and realized. So 112 is Yod He Vav He Elohim, Lord God. That's what it would be translated in English. Another word, this 778 is Shavuot. King David was born and died at Shavuot. Okay, so they're very, very significantly connected also to a revelation of Moshiach Ben David. And like I say, Moshiach Ben David will bring peace between heaven and earth. He will bring peace between the male and female, bring peace between Israel and the nations, bring peace between body and soul. And that peace is the vessel through which we are able to receive the light Yod-Heh-Vav desires for us to bestow upon us. Desires to bestow upon us. Right, 890 is 2 times 445. In its place, that's from Zechariah 14:10. This is a highly messianic verse, by the way. I haven't got a chance to put it all up, but Tachteha, in its place. Got to remember that this Tachath is very symbolic because Yeshua was Tachath Beno. He was the ram that was Tachath Beno instead of or in place of Yitzchak. Okay, it's really the whole point of the suffering is Yitzchak is code name. Okay, there's an element to Yitzchak that's positive, and there's an element to Yitzhak, the left-hand side of divinity, that's negative, that needs to be corrected, if you like. And that's what contains all the harshness and all the judgments and all the punishments, the darkness. Okay, so when it says a set an end to darkness, we're talking about removing. It's what Yitzhak represents, Gevurah, which is might and strength, you know. It's a good thing, like Angel Gabriel is very much connected to that, you know. So this is a very holy power, but there's also something that's very negative about it, the judgments and the bitterness and the darkness. This is what we're in a process of removing. So we've got to understand, why was he instead of Yitzchak? It says Tachath Beno, the ram was Tachath Beno in place of Yitzchak. He had to go and suffer this horrific exile, all the darkness, all the judgments, all the harshness. Moshiach Ben Yosef is suffering in exile with us, especially when we are murdering Jews in the name of Jesus, as is what has happened in history. You know, this kind of behaviour causes the soul of Moshiach Ben Yosef a great amount of suffering and darkness. This is torment and punishment and everything else, and his soul is suffering because we're doing it all in his name. All the sins that we're doing in his name are causing nothing but nothing, and all the rituals, like the Catholic Church, all the rituals, all the lies, all the denial of the truth. You know what we should be doing, imitating the name Yod-Heh-Vav, the example that he gave us to imitate the name Yod-Heh-Vav at the highest levels of mercy possible. All merciful, all forgiving, all kind, truthful, everything like that. That's totally denied, and we're just going around doing all these rituals, building all these churches, you know, all this rubbish instead, all in his name. This causes the soul of the Mashiach in truth to suffer. This is the darkness he's taken upon himself to ultimately bring it to an end, because at one point he will overpower it. All this darkness that we have created in his name. And not only that, the way that the Jews have looked at it and perceived it. There is truth in the way the Jews are looking at it and perceived it, but they are also adding fuel to the fire, you know, and all this darkness and concealment. He has gone into that darkness and concealment in order to overwhelm it. Okay, it's not just death, it's darkness itself, it's concealment itself, and that concealment itself will be transformed into a revelation of the truth about what Od Yosef Chai, that he was not defeated by this, despite efforts on all parts to conceal him. He will not be concealed forever. There's a time involved in this concealment, and it's when he's revealed, it's like we will mourn. We will all mourn. you know, for what we've done to him, with the suffering that we've caused him, truly the suffering that we've caused him. But he wasn't willing. Like I say, sweat blood, he didn't want to go. This is a sign of Moshiach, but Yod-Heh-Vav was willing to put him who was perfect and innocent in this place to suffer for all the sake of all of us, the whole of humanity, to be ultimately raised up when we're able to perceive the light trapped in this darkness. So he was in place of this darkness that leads to death, that leads to judgment, that leads to punishment, concepts like fire and hell, anything associated with the kind of cruel harshness of nature and anything like that. Yeshua was in place of all that. He took it all upon himself. He suffered all of it. He didn't just die in a crucifixion. That would have been bad enough. He's been suffering the entire 2,000 years under the burden of all this evil that we have caused him to suffer. And we have attacked him from all sides. Whether we Islamic people, you know, creating this darkness, Christian people, we've created enough, Jewish people creating darkness, you know, not perceiving the light trapped in this, like they should have been doing, sorting light from dark. No, just creating more concealment, more confusion, cursing him, whilst he's suffering for the entire of humanity instead of Yitzhak. Instead of Yitzhak, and Yitzhak should have been bound. Why should Yitzhak have been bound? Why did Yod-Heh-Vav ask Abraham to bind Yitzhak? Because Yitzhak had this power within him that contained this judgment and harshness, and it needed to be done away with. Okay, but his plan was not for just that. His plan was, that was a little version of what would be the big version, Moshiach Ben Yosef, taken upon all this, going into exile, going into this concealment that is exile now in each and every one of his lives, until that day where his light breaks forth and shines forth. Okay, and it will come because it's the will of Yod-Heh-Vav to cause it to happen. And none of our evil, none of the evil we have, you know, absolutely enforced in our lives through these religions and these exilic mindsets that we cling to as if it's precious truth, none of that evil will prevail. His light, the truth of what Yod-Heh-Vav has done in the life of Moshiach Ben Yosef, will prevail, and we will all see it when our eyes are opened. We will all see it. So this is very much, you've got to understand what has Yod-Heh-Vav been doing? Glorious things, that's what he's been doing. We have perceived the darkness, and it's nothing but glory. He gave us a work to do. We've got to start doing the work we should be doing, sorting light from darkness, figuring it all out. We've got hindsight now. We're living in the darkest possible time, but we've got hindsight. We can now look back and see what Yod-Heh-Vav has been doing. We can't see up front. We are right on the edge of revelation now. We've got to open our eyes and see, because we have hindsight. We have the ability to look back and see, because if we see that there's been something other than Yod-Heh-Vav, that's a false god we have created in our own imaginations. Okay, there is only Yod-Heh-Vav, and it was his will to cause the Moshiach Ben Yosef, Yeshua, to descend into exile and suffer this horrific exile with us up to the 49th level of impurity. And there will be no level that won't be able to hide him eternally. His light will break forth from the lowest, most depraved, impure situations possible, and that light is breaking forth today. We've got to open our eyes and see it. We've got to understand what has been going on. And then all of a sudden, all these things that we don't think are anything to do with Yod-Heh-Vav, we'll realise all this evil itself, it's only Yod-Heh-Vav that allowed it to be for a very great purpose. Okay? And to give us a work to do, to dignify our existence in this evil itself, to give us a dignity, a work to do. Imagine that we can actually reveal the truth of Yod-Heh-Vav in this and through this evil that we have suffered in exile. Imagine that we've been given that work to do, and imagine when we do it. So we've got to unite. It's all humanity. We've got to overcome this. Very interestingly, 890 is 10 times 89. Okay, what is 89? 89 is the ordinal of Yetzer hara, evil inclination. What is synonymous with evil inclination? Edom. What is an Esav? Esav is Edom was from Esav. Okay, so what is all this then? This is the exile we are all suffering now. Edomite exile. We are all subject to the forces of our evil inclination. What's the greatest force that can come against us? Our own imaginations. Our own imaginations as to what Moshiach is, as to what Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh is. We've got to fight against our imagination. What fuels our imagination? The lies of the religions that we've inherited. Because we've inherited truth that is exiled. The truth of in the New Testament, the truth about Mashiach has been exiled in the New Testament. That's been exiled into Greco-Roman mindset, Western culture, Rome. Okay. The Torah of Moshe descended into Erev Rav domination. It's filled with Erev Rav influence. Got to break free of this. Got the Hebrew minds. It all fuels our imagination. It all fuels our evil inclination to create to create uncircumcised hearts and minds and lips, because it fuels our egos and imaginations. We end up, whichever religion we are a part of, we end up thinking that we are the most chosen people. We have got the most truth. If you look closely, you've probably got the most lies. You've inherited lies. You've got to discern truth from lie. You've got to use your powers of discernment. You've got to cling to the name Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. Humble yourself. It's humbling to know the truth. It's humbling to be a Hebrew, because there's nobody on your side. That you have to go against every flow of influence in this world at this time. And it's humbling and it's lonely. Okay, so the truth, the path of truth is very humbling. But we are not alone in the search for it. You know, to be a Hebrew means you've got to go. You go against the flow. It means from the other side. We don't get caught up in the lies we've inherited. Something within us is battling against that. What within us? Our Hebrew souls desiring to be liberated from all this demonic forces, all this evil, all this ego. Judaism fuels ego. Christianity fuels ego. Islam fuels ego to the point where you're prepared to murder other people. You know, or other people's lives are worth nothing. Nothing to you. This can happen. And in the name of religion, the God you're supposed to be worshipping, which is not Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, by the way. Okay, it's just part of the delusion. You've got to break free from it. And it's we're in a challenging time. We're completely dominated by evil forces. We have got to work harder than ever before to reveal the light. Okay, so for the anointing oil, 778, which we've already gone through that, haven't we? We've already pointed out that's Shavuot. I have surely remembered you now for the anointing oil. Le Shemen HaMishcha. So that's that's the same Gematria as Mashiach. So HaMishcha, anointing. And Mashiach means anointed. And you can see that the HaMishcha is the same Gematria as Mashiach. So it's all connected. It's revelation of Mashiach, you know, the anointed one. 778 is connected to that. And the 112 there is exactly the same Gematria law. 890, 10 times 89, 10 times Yetzer hara, evil inclination. We know the Mashiach has had to descend into all these forces of evil that we find ourselves subject to. He is suffering with us in it until we get the strength to get ourselves out of it. And ultimately, it's Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, an aspect of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh himself who's bound to the soul of the Moshiach, who's one with the soul of Moshiach Ben Yosef, suffering with us in this exile, until we learn to free ourselves from the lies that have entrapped us, from the influences of our own ego, from the power of the Yetzer Hara and our imaginations that are fueled by the lies we've inherited. We've got to get free. We've got to recognise and repent and get serious. You know, we've got his spiritual warfare is this. It cannot be. We cannot defeat the forces of evil without fighting. We've got to know what we're fighting. We've got to understand, you know, when it's our ego that's going to get crushed if we start to declare the truth regarding Yeshua. If you're Jewish, I mean, you might as well forget it. You're going to be seen as something less than dog dirt on the bottom of your shoe. It doesn't matter. It's the truth. Speak for it. Enough people rise up and speak from within Judaism about the truth. I'm not saying give up Orthodox Judaism, give up the Torah for this sake, but you've got to find the truth and stand by it and speak it. And the more people who are speaking it, the more we will influence people to drop their arrogance and exilic mindsets that are rejecting this truth constantly, rejecting this light and calling it darkness. The light of truth that Yeshua is the Moshiach. Okay, it's time to end this nonsense and these Erev forces within Judaism are disgusting, and also the forces within Christianity that refuse to accept the truth regarding Yeshua, that he was a Hebrew, that he was from the tribe of Yehuda, that he kept the Torah according to the letter of the law as revealed by Moshe, the revelation of the name Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. We've got to unite that together. We've got to also see that the soul of Moshiach didn't just come in Yeshua, it came in Moshe too, and it will come again in Moshiach Ben David. Okay, the ram for the offering. I mean, it doesn't get closer than that, does it? That's 445. We've already talked about. He was the ram. Haseh la'olah. La'Allah. It means it for the offering. Olah. That word is connected very much to King David as well. So 445, 76, which is Bereshith, I do believe. The ordinal for Bereshith in the beginning. And 597. We've got revenge for blood, nekmath dam. This is a very, very important word because nekmath, the regular and the ordinal of nekmath comes to 658, which is the rectified spelling for hamaoroth, the luminaries. In Torah it's spelt defective with two missing vowels, but if we add the two missing vowels up, it comes to 658. So when we see the revenge for the blood, the spilt blood of the servants, this is talking about the spilt blood of the servants of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, we will see that luminary rectified, but we have to pray that this revenge happens in a good way. Because we are all guilty. We are all guilty of spilling the blood of his servant. His ultimate servant is Yeshua HaMashiach. We're all guilty. So we've got to plead that this revenge happen in a merciful way for the sake of all humanity. Because we couldn't tolerate punishment for the suffering that Moshiach Ben Yosef has had to suffer on account of our egos and delusion. But you know, this is the price that he paid. It was the price that he paid. It was a price that Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh was willing to pay for all of us, so that we would all complete this tikkun and repair our faith in the name Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. It's all part of a glorious plan when it's ultimately revealed, but we've still got to pray for mercy, because there's options where we could really have to be brought to account, and it would be devastating for all humanity. We've got to pray for mercy, and that mercy is available to us. Why is it available to us? It's available to us through the suffering, the ram, the suffering of Moshiach Ben Yosef. That is the provision to gain access to the highest levels of mercy that we need in order to elevate us out of this guilt that we've brought upon ourselves through just the way that we've lived our lives to conceal and cause further suffering from Moshiach Ben Yosef. So all this, and I mean, look at the concealment within Christianity, concealment in Judaism, concealment within Islam, regarding the concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef, has caused more spilling of the blood of servants than anything else. You know, you need to end this, and when this is ended, it will be glorious, and we'll see glorious things. We'll see the Ma'aroth, the luminaries, which are the concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef, Moshiach Ben David. We'll see them fully restored. So Nechmath, let me just work it out. It's 400 and I think it comes to 590 plus the ordinal would take it up to 658. I haven't put it on there, but I just thought it was an opportune moment to speak, seeing as I've been speaking about all the things that I've been speaking about. And finally, this is Yeshua. Now you've got to understand, I talked about the Ma'aroth I've just talked about, I wasn't planning on talking about the Ma'aroth, the Ma'aroth, the luminaries, which are spelt defective in the Torah itself. They're written without the missing two vavs. Okay, so this is a spelling of the Yeshua, right? And so we're in a state of exile where those two vavs are not fully revealed. They won't be revealed until the revenge for the blood of the spilt blood of the servants happens, and that, you know, the Jewish people are counted in that. The Christians whose blood's been spilt for the sake of the name of Yeshua are counted in that, and also the Muslims whose blood has been spilt when they are innocent. You know, they're innocent, and they are part of God's plan for all humanity to know his name and to know his authority and receive a revelation of his oneness. So there's lots of blood being spilled. It isn't just been Yeshua, but Yeshua has had to suffer for all that blood that has been spilled. He is suffering with us when we are in this exile, subject to these lies, subject to imagination, and subject to evil influence, evil inclination. He is suffering as a consequence of that with us. Okay? Until that blood is avenged, Nechmath Dam. And like I said, that's related to the Ma'aroth, the luminaries that are diminished, and they're related to the concept of Mashiach. So we've got Mashiach Yeshua, and it's spelt with the nun missing vavs. Okay? So the letter nun is missing a vav. Nun, if you spelt it properly, would be 2 Mashiach. 2 times Mashiach, the ordinal of Mashiach, it comes to 106. Sorry, it would be 2 times Yeshua, it comes to 106. Okay? But like I say, he's not fully revealed because this force of Erev, the forces of the evil inclination dominate. So that light is diminished as a result, just like the light of the luminaries. This is all part of Yod-Heh-Vav's plan. It's for us. It's for us to reveal that light from the concealment itself. So this spelling out ordinarily comes to 445, which, like I say, it's all these, connected to all these. He has had to be diminished and go into the exile of the evil inclination, to exile of Edom, and suffer with us until the truth is fully revealed. The truth represents the Vav. We have got the job of revealing that truth, that Od Yosef Chai. It's our toil to overcome the forces of Amalek. It's our toil to subdue the forces of the evil inclination. Okay, it's our toil to overcome the forces of these exilic mindsets, Yishmaelite mindset, Christian mindset, Greco-Roman mindset, Edomite mindset, Erev Rav mindset. It's our toil. Then we will have earned the right to that elevation that we will experience in Mashiach, back up to Gan Eden for all humanity. We will have earned that. We will know, because you know why we will know? Because we know the power of this evil that we have endured. You imagine when we triumph over that. The evil we see in this world is ours to conquer with the truth. Okay? Until it yields a revelation of Od Yosef Chai, and through that revelation, the unity and oneness and sovereignty of the name Yod-Heh-Vav. Okay? There's no other way, by the way. There's no other. We can't ignore reality. Yeshua is a reality of these last 2,000 years. If you want to deny that and say, oh, that's something other than Yod Heh Vav Heh, you are never going to. If you just class that as another God, that other God is part of your imagination, by the way, that you have created. You have to see that what looks like something other, you've got to reveal the light that it contains. Okay, because Yod Heh Vav Heh is hidden his light. And he hides it often in the least obvious places. Right, let's have a look again. What else can we have a look at? Oh, it just goes from glory to glory, by the way. Who's in the heavens is equal. So we've looked at these three numbers, haven't we? It's all pointing at Yeshua. Let's have a look at these two. Oh, we're looking at these three numbers. Guess what they point at. Right, so we've got Jerusalem. We've already pointed out that Jerusalem is connected to Revelation of Moshiach Ben Yosef. Okay, so the misbagadol of Jerusalem is 1,240. Okay, wonderful stuff. I dwelt among the tents of Kedar. This is King David, isn't it? He dwelt among the tents of Kedar. This is the worst tribe from within Ishmael. And where did Muhammad come from? He was connected to Kedar. You know, Muslims pride themselves on this revelation within Isaiah 42:11, I think it is, where they say that you know, this is prophecy regarding Muhammad. I've done a whole analysis of it. I've never actually gone through it, but I've recently done an analysis of that. So, you know, Moshiach Ben David dwelt among the tents of Kedar. You know, he says, woe is me, you know, and then he says, I am for peace and they are for war. But there is a very deep truth in this, because, you know, you've got the concept of Moshe, the aspect of Mashiach that is Moshe within Rabbinic Judaism, exiled into Rabbinic Judaism. The concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef, exiled into Christianity, Edomite. But the concept of Moshiach Ben David is actually exiled, I really truly believe, within Islam. Why do I say this? Because you've got the Jewish people, which I know that this is a kind of whitewashing of Judaism. I know there's a lot of variety within Judaism, but Judaism on a whole is seen as all Torah, all laws, all commandments and mitzvahs. You know, not much in terms of spirituality and innovativeness. You know, there's not much in where what you would class as spiritual activity. Christianity is the opposite of that. There's, generally, it's not legalistic. It's mainly spiritual. You know, and the laws are kept in a spiritual way, and blah 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 blah. All this law and the other. Whereas Islam it's a balance and a harmony between that, isn't there? There's quite a lot of commandments and laws, but there's also this there's also a very profound spiritual element to Islam as well. And this is the concept of the two sticks, isn't it? The stick of Yehuda, exiled within Erev Rav, Rabbinical Judaism. The stick of Yosef, exiled within Christianity. Ultimately, those two sticks need to come together as one stick, the stick that will reveal Moshiach Ben David. Okay, so where is this one stick then? If we've got the stick of Yehuda, we've got the stick of Yosef, where's the one stick hidden? If they're exiled into these two religions, where's the one stick? Very most likely the one stick is exiled into Islam. And I can't say where that's going or what will be the ultimate revelation, but I do believe when Moshiach Ben David is revealed, the Torah that he will profess will look a lot like Islam. In terms, I'm not talking about the Islam that we've got today, I'm talking about that balance between laws and spirituality. Because he will unite the two names together, the two names of the inner dimension of the name and the outer dimension of the name. So the fact that King David said, I dwelt among the tents of Kedar, woe is me. It's like he talks about being in Meshech, doesn't it? And then it goes on, Ani Shalom, I am for peace, but they are for war. Okay, so there's this reference and connection to Kedar, which are Ishmaelites. This is a tribe of the Ishmaelites. So it's almost like messianic prophecy. Where is the concept of Moshiach Ben David hidden in this world? Because we can see quite clearly where Moshe's hidden, where Moshe's exiled, and we can sort of determine, well, Moshiach Ben Yosef is definitely hidden in Christianity. This is obvious. Where is Moshiach Ben David exiled to? Possibly into Islam. And what do I mean by that? This is a lot. We've got to unite the light that's been distributed in this world. You know, Yosef doesn't do anything in vain. The fact that you've got all these billion Muslims dedicated to serving, you know, they call themselves slaves to the creator of heaven and earth. You know, they worship their God of Abraham. You know, they believe in Yeshua and all this. It's all, we're in a state of exile, so everything's exile, everything's full of lies. But where is the one stick then? You know, because Yosef has done nothing in vain. He hasn't brought these people to a revelation of him, and it is him that's revealed it 100%. If you are going to deny that, you are a fool. If all you can say is that was a false prophet, there may be some truth in that, but it's still hidden in all that is what Yosef has been doing to bring about a consciousness, divine consciousness, within all these Arab people and Muslim people, and it's gone throughout all the world, you know, and they're all aware of Yeshua, they're all aware of King David, they're all aware of Moses, they're all aware of Yaakov and Yosef. You know, this is the word of God spread throughout the nations. But a lot of the people that are Islam are actually not, they're actually from the lost house of Israel. What about the Pashtuns? They know they're from the lost house of Israel. What about the Taliban? Okay, the Taliban are from the house of Israel. They know it. I've even seen Jewish men go into Afghanistan and reveal these huge stones that the Taliban hide. What's written on those stones? Hebrew is written on those stones. I've seen videos of it. So, you know, we've got to understand, we've got to be very mature, because there's a purpose for everything and it's all glorious. There's a purpose, and that ultimate purpose we will have to unite together. The Jews, the Christians, and the Muslims, and all the world as well. You know, and all the truth be revealed. Who is of the lost house of Israel? You know, all these things have all got to be revealed from this dark exile in which we have been exiled. And like King David said, you know, he is for peace, but they are for war. This has got to be transformed. Okay, so there's a massive connection. Who in the heavens is equal, and there's lots and lots and lots. When you're revealing Moshiach Ben Yosef, there's lots and lots of things that indicate that Moshiach Ben David, the concept of Moshiach Ben David, is hidden in Islam. And that's just what the Torah reveals. This is not what I reveal. This is what the Torah reveals. When you go and numerically analyse the things about Ishmael, things about Hagar, that's what the Torah itself yields. So you can't ignore it. If you want to live a lie and believe that they're they're all going to be, they're all worthy of death, you know, carpet bombing Afghanistan and Iran and all this, like, if you want to go believe that, believe it, but you're not on the side of Yosef. 100% you're not. You're just part of the exile that's causing more spilt blood of the servants that will need to be avenged at some point. Okay, the grave of our teacher Moshe. Okay, so also 1,240 plus a kalel goes to 1,241. Okay, which is 1,240. All these linked plus a kalel. Okay, who is Moshe, by the way? Moshiach. He's the Moshiach. Okay, and you've got to understand, even in Jerusalem, you know, you've got the Dome of the Tent, Dome of the Rock, sorry. And this has been under Muslim domination for a long time. It was under Christian domination, it was under Muslim domination. It's now gone back under, for the most part, back under Jewish dominion, which is all by the will of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. But that's what we've got now in Jerusalem is not the final revelation. Oh no, final revelation will be the unity. Okay, it's absolutely 100%. Why? Because Moshe is an umbrella term, if you like, for the unity of the Mashiachim. You know, he's the body of the bird, like I've said. The right wing is Moshiach Ben Yosef, the left wing is Moshiach Ben David. We have to unite those concepts in order to enter into the final revelation. Okay, we've got to separate the light from the dark. We've all been exposed to exilic forces. We've all had to descend into the power of the evil inclination to a very great degree. And you see, this evil that's in the world now is a consequence of what Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh willed for humanity, to give us a work to reveal the truth. Okay. In the secret of the upright of the congregation, that comes to 1420, which is linked to that. Okay. Besod can is also in the secret. It can mean in the secret. It's usually translated a different way, but besod, yeshrim ve'edah. Okay, those initial letters, by the way, of upright and congregation spell Yeshua. The two initial letters, Yeshua. Okay, he's the secret of the upright and the congregation. Okay, he's the secret. He's the one who in the heavens is equal. Who in the heavens is equal? Okay, the Moshiach. To provoke the eyes of his glory. Okay, this is, I don't think I've put all the numbers up for this, but that is related to Moshe and Yeshua. They're the eyes of his glory that are provoked. You know, the fact that Moshe is in exile with us, the fact that Yeshua is in exile with us. But anyway, to provoke the eyes of his glory, who he made equal in heaven to him, the Moshiach, has been provoked as a consequence of the exile to which the Moshiach, the level to which the Moshiach has been exiled. Okay. Alright, I have put it on. So the body of Moshe, this is what's written in Jude 1:9, also comes to 844. It's the body of Moses that's been provoked. Okay, and also here, look, this 764, may his name be erased. You see the body of Moses, this 764, the name Yimach Shemo Zikro comes to 643 regular, 121 ordinarily, add them together, they come to 764. That's what provokes the eyes of his glory. Moshe, the body of Moshe in exile, outside of the land of Israel, and the soul of Moshiach Ben Yosef in exile, in Edomite exile, with his name erased. Because Yimach Shemo Zikro, may his name be erased in his memory, is the curse which Yeshua is cursed with, and the initial letters of that are Yeshu. Yimach Shemo Zikro. It's Yeshu, and Yeshu is the derogatory name that Yeshua is cursed with in rabbinical Judaism. And yet it's Moshe who's being cursed, because Moshe and Yeshua are one, the soul of Mashiach. And that's what provokes the eyes of his glory, the eyes of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh's glory, because the Mashiach is the glory of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. It's the revelation of his glory on earth. It's the establishment of his kingdom on earth. It's the establishment of his king over kings on earth. It's the establishment of his holy Shekinah on earth. Okay? We're provoking the eyes of his glory. And look at their name, Einei. Einei. He rearranged that to Ayin. The I that's missing, the letter Ayin missing off Yeshua's name. The darkness God called, 736 plus 142. So this is what we're battling against out with the forces of darkness. If you add them up together, they come to 878. 878 is Mashiach spelled out. Okay. The next word, the word next to this, and the darkness God called, the word next to it, the next word is to light. The darkness precedes the light of redemption. So if you go look at that, you'll see what I mean. The next word along is to light. 878 is Moshiach spelt out. I think I've already gone through that. And so this is very messianic. Okay, it's really telling us what's the force that's going to come against this darkness. Mashiach. How? Well, he's going to descend into it and conquer it. Okay, that's what he's going to do. And how is he going to do that? Well, is the soul of Moshiach Ben Yosef and the soul of Moshe going to descend into exile, one into Arab exile, one into Edomite exile, and the soul level of Moshiach Ben David into Ishmaelite exile, and from that darkness they will overcome, prevail. Their light will prevail and unify. And by doing so, all humanity will be unified, and we will be all exalted back up to the last Adam, the status in Gan Eden, and forever growing in spiritual revelation from then on in. May it be today. Right, may your enemies be scattered and those flee. So this is what's said every time the Torah is brought out of the Aaron. I've talked about this in the lessons about Yosef's coffin, because Yosef's coffin is also called Ha'aron. Okay, the Torah scrolls are kept in Ha'aron, and Holy Ark. The Ark of the Covenant is called Aaron Ha'abrith. I think that's how you say it. The Ark of the Covenant. So it's all connected, isn't it? You've got the Torah of Moshe in an ark, and then you've got the bones of Yosef, which represent the Torah of Moshiach Ben Yosef, also kept in an ark. Okay, they use the same name. Why did I say that? Because alright, so this is this is what's said, and I think it mentions about the ark within this particular phrase. May your enemies be scattered and those flee. It's arise Adonai. It's an absolutely beautiful. It's what's sung anyway in the synagogue. Let me just get the actual whole saying of it. Yeah, because it actually mentions the Haron. Now, they sing this, and it's absolutely wonderful when it's sung and the Torah scroll is brought out. And they say these same scrolls no matter where you are in the world. Why he been sower or on. So, and it would be that when travel would the ark. Why ben soa Aaron Wayomer Moshe Kumar Adonai Wayafutsu Oyavecha Wayanusu Mesonecha Miponecha Ki Mitzion Tetze Torah Ki Mitzion Tetze Torah Udvar Adonai Mirushalayim. And that's what's said when they're bringing the Torah out. And it says it would be that, sing a lot better than that. It would be that when travel would the ark, Moshe would say, arise Adonai, and let scattered be your foes, let flee those who hate you from before you. For from Zion, which is an appellation for Moshiach Ben Yosef, will come forth the Torah and the word of Yod He Vav He from Yerushalayim. So that's what, we've got three there really. We've got what would travel in the ark, and then we've got the Torah from Zion, which is the Torah from the other ark that travelled in the wilderness with Bnei Israel, the ark that contained the bones of the bones of Yosef, which is exactly the same as Zion. But then we've got the word from Yerushalayim Davar, and that's possibly what from Moshiach Ben David, because he's an appellation. Yerushalayim is really connected to Moshiach Ben David, revelation of Moshiach Ben David. Where's that going to come from then? Well, possibly from within Islam, because we've got Moshe from within Judaism, a revelation of the Torah of Moshe from within Judaism, Torah of Moshiach Ben Yosef from within Christianity, hidden in a great deal of darkness, and we've got to tell to reveal it. But then also a revelation of it's ultimately a revelation of the name Yod He Vav He, isn't it? That's contained within Islam. So we've got to unite all these together, and because Moshiach Ben David, like I say, he's exiled, possibly and probably most likely exiled within Islam. We've got to see what bits what. Okay, Zot Tiye Torah. This shall be the Torah, and this is connected to, I think it's the leprosy, the laws of leprosy. Okay, so 1,834 regular plus 142 comes to 1,976, which is 8 times 247, and I've put C over hint. Why? Because the word remez is equal to 247. Okay, remez means hint. Okay, what hint? Well, look at the verses of leprosy in the Torah and see what what revelation regarding Moshiach Ben Yosef they're hinting at. The leprous Moshiach. What's it pointing at? It's pointing at Yeshua being that Moshiach Ben Yosef. That's the big hint. Okay, so now we've got this 2,000. It came past the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh was dreaming, and behold, comes to 1,666. Very important number, by the way. 2,000 years of suffering of Moshiach Ben Yosef. So Yosef suffered 2 extra years until finally he'd overcome his doubts, or he not overcome his doubts, he'd corrected his faith. He showed, through uttering those 2 words, take me out and remember me and take me out, he showed a lack of faith, because he was calling out to the cupbearer for deliverance. The cupbearer was never going to deliver Yosef. It's only Yod-Heh-Vav who could deliver Yosef. Okay, so he didn't look anywhere else. When he learnt to look only to Yod-Heh-Vav and nowhere else for help, he was quickly got out of there, and the whole situation was orchestrated. So at exactly end of 2 years, it says, and it came to pass at the end of 2 full years. So he completely fulfilled 2 years. We've got to completely full 2,000 years. So this big 2,000 years, the era of Moshiach, is just to fulfill a correction. We've got to fulfill it in order to correct our emunah, the 1,000 years for each aspect of emunah. One for the aspect of Moshiach Ben David, belief in the coming of Mashiach. And where's he going to come from? Well, he's hidden from all the places into which Yod-Heh-Vav has hidden him. That's where he's going to come from. You've got to believe in the coming of Mashiach from all those places of exile and unite them together. The concept of Mashiach is very, very big. You've got to have an understanding of it from the perspective of Yod-Heh-Vav, not from our egotistical, inherited lies, slaves to our Yetzirah perspective, exilic perspective. We've got to have from a redeemed perspective, which is through the eyes of Yod-Heh-Vav. And how do we look for the world? We can discern it from the Torah, actually. We can even just from the Torah, it can be perceived. If you have a Hebrew soul, let's say, but a Hebrew mindset that's contrary to the lies into which you've descended, if you go contrary to that, you will see the truth. It's within our possibility to attain the truth with the help of Yod-Heh-Vav, because it's his will to reveal his name. Okay, he can't reveal it if we're serving our own egos. That's concealing it. Right, so who is he in heavens is equal 2,000? 2,000. What? This Moshiach Ben Yosef suffering in exile brings him to a place of he is equal. There's an equal. It's hard for me to actually say that it's an equal. Obviously, we're not talking about the infinite equalness of Yod-Heh-Vav. We're talking about the equality. We're talking about the oneness and the unity of the concept of the Mashiach with the name Yod-Heh-Vav. The Mashiach is his name, right? He's the ultimate representation of his name for within the realm of creation. Obviously, Yod-Heh-Vav is infinite and beyond creation itself, but to the degree with which Yod-Heh-Vav desires to make himself known to us in this world, to the absolute degree that he can reveal himself to finite creatures, then it's through the Mashiach, the concept of the Mashiach. And from that perspective, he is equal to the Mashiach because he cannot reveal himself to a greater degree than what he can reveal himself through his name, which is the Mashiach. Okay, I hope you can appreciate that. I'm not equating the Moshiach to the infinite one, because the Moshiach is a finite concept, but there is oneness with the infinite one. The oneness that can be revealed within finite creation, then the Moshiach and Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh are one. Okay, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh and his name, which is the Moshiach, are one. Okay, and don't want to get confused with thinking that I don't want to be confused with the confusion that you find regarding this issue within Christianity. Okay, so falsehood. This is the regular squared of falsehood. It's 2,000 times 70, 2,000 times the letter ayin, 2,000 years of exile where the letter ayin has been removed from the name of Moshiach ben Yosef. Okay, so we can see all the connections. For when the lad does not yet know to reject good and choose bad, comes to 272, which is the 130 from there plus the 142 from there. 272. This is a mass. There's loads of stuff I could bring up regarding this. Pinchas. Okay, this is very much related to unity between Moses and Yeshua. Why? Because there is a spelling out of Moshe and a spelling out of Yeshua that when you add them together come to 208, and I have gone over that before. I don't know whether it'll come up in this time. And mourn for him. So when we realise the extent to which we have caused Moshiach ben Yosef and Moshiach Ben David and Moshe to be subject to the onslaught of Hasatan, we will mourn. And when we know that our own evil has perpetuated their suffering, we will mourn. Okay? We will mourn. 272. It's got a regular of 92. That is a Moshiach ben David spelt with, when David is spelt rectified with the additional yud. That's the ordinal of Moshiach ben David spelt. When David is spelt Daleth Vav Yod Daleth, that is him rectified. Okay, add them together, come to 364. Hasatan, the Satan. We've been at the Moshiach has been subject to the onslaught of Hasatan, and we have all contributed to that, and we have all caused that suffering through our bad behaviour, through our evil, through our egos. 2 times Yaakov is 182. And when we overcome our own evil inclination, we will reveal Moshiach within us. Okay? The soul of Moshiach is suffering in each of our lives until we are liberated from these powers of our evil inclination, our evil imaginations, our exilic mindsets, the lies we've inherited in the ego boosting that we've inherited. We humble ourselves like the Hebrews that we should be and reveal the truth of the soul of Moshiach within our own lives. We have got to erase the evil, the satanic forces, the satanic indulgences and everything else, and instead we've got to have Yaakov there. Got to revive Yaakov. Our inner Yaakov represents our soul. Okay, the raven. This is connected very much to Ishmael. I've done analysis about the raven. It's got raven in the title. Go watch the video. It talks about this whole revelation of Mashiach within Islam. And since I've done that teaching, I've analysed these parts about Kedar, and it's pointing more and more and more and more to what I said. So I did reveal some regarding the raven. You know, this is like the Holy Spirit, the Mashiach, concept of Mashiach in exile, but it is connected also to Islam. Spirit of grace. So he will pour out a spirit of grace, won't he? Yod-Heh-Vav, he will pour out a spirit of grace and will mourn for him as for a lost son. So that's 227 regular, 56 ordinarily, 56 is Teshuvah. We will, with the spirit of grace, you're able to perfect Teshuvah. Okay, all these are wonderful numbers, but 272 is also 2 times 136. 164, the spirit of grace, heal up. 328 equals 2 times 164. 164 is 2 times 82. 2 times Moshiach Ben David, spelt this way. It's all connected in a wonderful way. And then you've got Kisei David. I don't know whether that's a bet, but it's supposed to be a chaf. Kisei David, David's throne, comes to 136 regular and ordinal. What is David's throne? David's throne is Moshiach Ben Yosef. The Vilna Gaon pointed out that all his suffering in exile with us will ultimately reveal the Moshiach Ben David from above. Okay. Right, this is wonderful stuff. This is wonderful stuff. I've not done the, just let me go do some stuff to this. Right, so a little bit better order now. So we've got this back up, who in the heavens is equal. And then we're going to be looking at some of these numbers now. Let's go and have a look. And all the house of Israel. This is the stick of Yosef. It says on the stick of Yosef, which is all the house of Israel. Okay, so the lost tribes of the house of Israel, basically. That also comes to 1,136, which is 2 times 568, which, look, is all connected up to here. Where do we get this from? We get the 890, which is the regular and ordinal, and then we've also got the Mispar Gadol, the regular Mispar Gadol and the ordinal Mispar Gadol, those two together down here. And we're now looking at the 136 and this and this. We will look at that over. So it's all connected, it's all glorious. So this here, look, 1009, this is a very, very significant number. Obviously I ain't got no chance to go. But Hasatan, spelt out, Shin, Tet, Nun, with a Mispar Gadol, comes to 1009. The satanic forces are against all the house of Israel. The stick of Yosef primarily. Moshiach filled out, comes to 878, regular, ordinal of 131, together they come to 1009. So the forces of Hasatan is definitely against Moshiach, and specifically most targeted against the concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef. Okay, 131 is times 3 is 393, and that's the very messianic number regarding Shiloh. Okay, I go through that a lot. I'm not going through that today. So we've got this take me out. One of the aspects of faith that Yosef showed, this is one of the words that he said, and take me out, comes to 568. So we needed correction of faith. We've already gone through this. There's 82 from Moshiach Ben David, and then that is Yosef, isn't it? 650 is Yosef, spelt out the square ordinal of Yosef, and it's also for he has a hand on the throne of the eternal as well. And then we've got that being 8 times Yonah. 8 times 71 is Yonah. Yonah represents 70 nations plus Yisrael, 70 Sanhedrin plus Moshe. Okay, so there's all kinds of things. It's all about unity. To Asaph, a conductor, 464, 104 comes to 568, so that's all connected. This means the gatherer, isn't it? Yosef is out in the field, gathering in the lost holy sparks, which include our own soul. So he's gathering in the lost of the house of Israel and gathering on others besides. And he's even called the Kabatsan. Who Kabatsan? It can be he gathers, or he's the beggar. He's literally putting himself in a place of suffering in order to gather our souls in, to himself. So 567. 464 is 616 times 4. 116 is Moshiach Ben Yosef, the ordinal of Moshiach Ben Yosef. 104 is 2 times Moshiach. Okay, so all that's messianic. Powerful messianic stuff. Bechike, palette. This is from the book of Job. The square ordinal of that. Very interesting concept here. Again, you've got your the regular and ordinal come to Yonah. There's loads of stuff I did an analysis of. This is taken from the book of Job, talking about the tongue sticking to his palate and things like that, I think it is, or something like that. I can't remember. Oh no, I spoke from my palate. So 568 is linked to that. Okay. I think I've just left that coloured, we shouldn't have done, but anyway, it's all interesting messianic revelation. And then this is, I'll just have to bring it all up for you to see. So these are the different spellings out of Moshe and Yeshua, and these are the Mispah Gadol spellings out. So when we take into consideration like the nun, for example, here, here and here, when the nun is given the Mispah Gadol ordinals, you get these numbers here. If we add all the ones up for Yeshua, all the ones up for Yeshua, the Yeshua at Malkuth, where the Vav is filled with a Vav, at Yetzirah, where the Vav is filled with an Aleph, at Bina, where the Vav is filled with an Aleph as well, and the He with a Yud, for Moshe, and then at Atziluth, when both the Vav and the He are both filled with a Yud, and we add them all up together, for Yeshua, it comes to 568. Okay, so we know all this here, and all this here, and all this here, and all the house of Israel, the stick of Yosef, is related to a revelation of Yeshua. Okay, this is even more fascinating, right? So this is all the books of Torah, Bereshith, Shemoth, Vayikra, Bamidbar and Devarim, comes to 2,480. 2,480 is 4 times 496. This is all about Moshiach Ben David. This is why we know the regular numbering is to do with Moshiach Ben David. The ordinal numbering is to do with Moshiach Ben Yosef. We can see that through here. 568 is 2 times 284, and that's the ordinal of all that. But that's not the only clue. Then we've got together, they come to 2,768, which is 4 times 691. And as we can see, that's related then up to this number, 1,382. Okay, so it's all linked up, 4 times 691. Let me just double check that, because yeah, 4 times 691. We're going to have a look at that to see what powerful number that is, but now we're just going to look at these to show how that is Moshiach Ben Yosef, and that is, Moshiach Ben David and Moshiach Ben Yosef. Okay, so we've got the moon, Hamet Ora Katan Halayla, comes to 496. These are the three words used to describe the moon, which is symbolic of Moshiach Ben David. That's why at the sanctification of the moon each month, you say David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Chayam. I think that's how you say. No, David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Chayam. Just slightly different pronunciation, but 496. And as we can see, the average book of the I think that's supposed to be 5 times 496. Let me just double check that. So it would be the average divided by 5. Yeah, it's that should be 5 times. I will correct that. 5 times 496. So the average book of the Torah is a revelation of Moshiach Ben David, because he is the moon. Okay, 136, as we've already just pointed out, is the throne of David, and all those other things we just pointed them out, haven't we, on the last slide, the things that were 272. So the throne of David, and it's also spelling out of Yaakov, and it's also spelling out of Sarach Bat Asher, or just Sarach. Okay, add them together, 632, it comes to 2 times Yeshu. That's the curse with which Moshiach Ben Yosef is cursed. Okay, so it's all connected. Moshiach Ben David is not revealed until the truth about Moshiach Ben Yosef is revealed. Okay, to open the eyes of Yehuda, to bring unity between Yehuda and Yosef, and that unity between Yehuda and Yosef will reveal a further unity between Yosef, Yehuda, and Yishmael. What's the Moshiach Ben David that's hidden in Yishmael? That will be the final revelation. That will be the final unity that will reveal in the flesh Moshiach Ben David. Okay, but it won't come until all these things are unified together. So there's got to be unity between Moshiach Ben David and Moshiach Ben Yosef and Moshe. Right, why do we know that 496 is related to Moshiach Ben David? Well, we know through the concept of the moon. but red with beautiful eyes. This is the way he was described in 1 Samuel. King David is red with beautiful eyes, 496. Added together with 172. And we've already come across that, haven't we, with Pocotti, I think it was. Something like that. I think we came across that number previously. Right, then we're now going to look at why, if that number there, the regular is related to Moshiach Ben David, why the ordinal is related to Moshiach Ben Yosef. We can already see it's related to Moshiach Ben Yosef through Yeshua. But the concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef, just as Moshiach Ben David is related to the moon, we need to see the relation to the sun. The sun is Moshiach Ben David, Moshiach Ben Yosef. Ha'me'or ha'gadol hayom, they're the three words used to describe the sun. So you've got Ha'me'or ha'katan, the luminary that is small in the night is the moon, and the luminary that is big in the day is the sun. Comes to 355. Okay. Yet the chief butler did not remember Yosef, but forgot him. Why shekhe? I can't spell that because I've not put the vowel pointings down, but I can't pronounce it, sorry. 355. Also, 355 is 5 times 71, the sign of Mashiach Yonah, and 355 also equals Pharaoh. And Yosef was subject to Pharaoh, he was his viceroy. Okay, eventually he will be Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh's viceroy. What is a viceroy? He's a representative of the monarch. Right, clean is he. So this is regarding the leprosy, isn't it? So clean is he comes to 232. Let there be light is also 232. The hidden light, the light hidden away for the righteous until Moshiach comes and is revealed. Ordinal is 52 of Tahor who, he is clean, which is the same as Moshiach. Moshiach ordinally, look. Okay. So this is exactly half of what's up here. To Asaph a conductor, he is clean. We've got 232, which is half of that. So that's 2 times 116, 2 times Moshiach Ben Yosef, the ordinal of Moshiach Ben Yosef. That there is 2 times Moshiach. This is 1 times Moshiach. And that is 284, half of that. So 284 is the entire ordinal of the 5 books of the 5 books of Torah. We see that it's related to revelation of Yeshua, Moshiach Ben Yosef, and this whole concept of he is clean, the leprous Moshiach, which is Moshiach Ben Yosef. But finally, we've got a massive connection to here. Who forms light and creates darkness, who makes peace and creates evil. I am the Lord who makes all of these. So this is the process that we're trying to correct, isn't it? We're trying to transform the darkness into light, and from the evil make shalom. That's a process of rectification. Okay, so that comes to 2,840, which, as you can see, is 10 times the ordinal for the Torah, but it's also 8 times 355, which is 355 the sun, and it's connected to Yosef, very clearly connected to the whole concept of Yosef. Okay, 455 is a filling out of Moshe. Okay, so it's one of the ordinals of Moshe, and it's also 5 times. It's the first filling out, regular of Moshe. So we've got Moshiach Ben Yosef, and that there is also connect, and that number there is also a revelation of Yeshua. It's one of the 5. In fact, I'm going to put those 2 numbers up. I'll put for Moshe up, and I'll put that one up now. Just wait a minute. Okay, so that's the filling out of Moshe. Okay, which is the level of Atziluth, isn't it? And Bina. And that comes to 455. And also this number here. So if we add up the regular and the ordinal, it's 5 times 659. So it's a correction for 5 times means a rectification for Yeshua. That's Yeshua spelled to the first filling at the highest level of filling of Atziluth. Okay, along with this is a filling of Atziluth. So that is where the filling, the level of emanation Oh, we want to get back to these high exalted levels of consciousness of the name Yod He Vav He, and it's all this is made the provision for us to access that revelation of divine consciousness at the highest levels of possible, where the light with the light is revealed from the darkness, and shalom from all the evil that we've suffered in exile. It's accomplished all these means. And it's utterly and absolutely glorious stuff. Right, let's just go and have a look at this. Because as you can see, this is all connected to this number. It's also connected to this 691. Let's go and have a look what this 691 is all about then. Now she had on a tunic, for in this manner the king's daughters dressed in robes. That word ketaneth pasim, striped tunic, is a tunic of many colours. It's exactly the same word as the tunic that was made for Yosef from his father, in robes, and his servant brought her outside and locked the door after her. So this Tamar, after she'd been disgraced with her brother Amnon. So, for in this manner the king's daughters dressed. Okay, that comes to 390. Just wait a minute, I think, let's just go back, what we're looking at now. I think I might have gone a little bit. We want this to 691, don't we? I'm just looking at the wrong one. Okay, so I've just revealed all this because I just wanted to point something out. We've just been having a look at these 5 books of Torah, and we know that 496 is to do with King David, don't we? And the 284 we've just said is to do with a revelation of Yeshua. It's all connected to, you know, those different spellings out of Yeshua coming to 2 times 284, and that verse from Isaiah. So if we add those two up together, we get 780. And I just wanted to point out some of the things that that's linked to. So that's linked to this up here. For in the manner of the king's virgin's daughters, for in this manner the king's virgin daughters dressed. So that comes to 390. You got, which 2 times that would come to this 780. Okay, let's just quickly go through this then. King of Israel plus King of the Nations comes to 780, which is 4 times 195 and 5 times 156. What is 156? Yosef. Okay, you've got King of Israel ordinal, which comes to 100. King of the Nations ordinal comes to 68. The ordinal of these two, add them together, 168. The square of David with the yod in the middle comes to 168. Okay, King of Israel is 731, so the regular plus the ordinal comes to 731. The King of the Nations is 217, so the regular plus the ordinal 217. Together they come to 948, which is 2 times 474. What does 474 equal? It equals Erev Rav, mixed multitude. That's the exile into which Moses is exiled. Okay, and that we're massive, powerful force that we need to overcome in order to restore our supernal da'ath, our knowledge of God. This is rectification for eating the tree of the knowledge. But the you know, no more will you say kind of thing, and the knowledge of Yod He Vav He will fill the earth as the waters cover the sea. We're wanting to get to that level of divine knowledge of Yod He Vav He. We know his name. You know, we even go beyond faith, that doesn't it? We've completed our faith to the point where we know Yod He Vav He, and there's nothing else beside him. So that's, we've got to fight these evil forces in order to gain that rectification. Beneath the wings of the Shekinah. So this is like gathering the whole, all of humanity beneath the wings of the Shekinah. Look at that word, tachath. Tachath, as in tachath beno, in place of his son. We've already looked at that, haven't we? In place of Yitzhak. So letachath. How does she gather in under her wings? She gathers it in through the substitute, is Moshiach Ben Yosef, through the one who became the tachath instead of Yitzhak, who took upon himself all the punishment and the darkness and the chaos and the evil, and subdued it to the side of holy. For this, that through the power of that, the Holy Shekinah will bring the whole of humanity under her wings, 195. Okay, she's going to be the king of Israel. Moshiach will be the king of Israel and the king of the nations. Yod-Heh-Vav will be king of Israel and king of the nations. Right, Esav. So we've got to subdue the nations. We've got to subdue this evil inclination. We've got to subdue this force of chaos. So Esav spelt out, okay, to the second fill-in, ordinally I think this is, yeah. So that's Esav, the actual name Esav. Esav filled out, and Esav to the second fill-in, where the Vav is filled with an ayin, where the Vav is filled with an aleph, comes to 390. So that's all linked. There's a process involved. We have got to dominate and subdue this evil inclination. Okay. Esav made into vessels of shalom to receive the oneness of the name Yod-Heh-Vav. Ayin, spelt with a mispah gadol, where the nun is a 700. So 770 and 10. 780, mispah gadol, the letter missing from Yeshua's name. So that's all linked up to here. Everything to do with here is to do with that letter ayin. And then we can see the books of the Torah, the average book for the regular, which represents King David, plus the full ordinal, which represents Moshiach Ben Yosef. And by the way, Moshiach Ben Yosef is the secret level of the entire Torah. That's why his number includes the entire Torah and not just an average of it, because through that light we see the light of the name Yod-Heh-Vav revealed. That's why we need all the books of Torah to reveal, all united together to reveal the truth regarding Moshiach Ben Yosef. Moshiach Ben Yosef is the secret level. Why do we know that? Because secret spelt out, Sod, Vav, Chaf, Sod, Samech, Vav and Daleth spelt out, come to 566, which is exactly the same as Moshiach Ben Yosef. He is the secret level, the sword level, and we need that revealing, because without the secret level we have no right to interpret the Peshat level. The Peshat is got to be interpreted according to the secret hidden meaning. The secret hidden meaning is Yeshua, is the Moshiach Ben Yosef. And so without that we can't even, the literal interpretation is incorrect. Okay, so the moon, and without the correct interpretation we have not got the revelation of the name Yod-Heh-Vav. We've just got the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This is good, this is evil. We've not got the truth of the name Yod-Heh-Vav revealed. We've already gone through all these, haven't we? 780 is 5 times Yosef. 780 is 20 times 39, which is the ordinal of Moshe. Moshe 77 plus Yeshua 118, spelt that way, is 195. For 70 years like the days of one king, and according to Talmud, that one king is none other than Moshiach. It's got an ordinal of 195. If these men die as all men die, Korach and his rebellion against the Moshiach of Yod-Heh-Vav, spirit of Korach, 195. So that's the evil opposite, isn't it? Somebody always trying to rebel against the Moshiach of Yod-Heh-Vav and put instead the fantasy fiction versions of Moshiach. And the Lord shall become king over all the earth, 195 ordinally. And that 813 is regular for, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. And then the ransomed of the Lord will return and come to Zion. That's Moshiach Ben Yosef. He needs to be ransomed. He needs a pidyon nefesh to bring him back. That also comes to 195. So just gone through that quickly to tie it up and link it up to this concept of the Torah, which we've just covered, because it's just so glorious. There's no other ways to describe it. The revelation is glorious. Right, then we've got this. I said we'd go over the 691, didn't we? Let's just go back and have a... Oh, I've gone a bit back a slow way. I wanted to show how... why is it not going back? Oh, I've gone a bit too far back. Right, just wait a minute. Let me just stop there. Right, so I wanted to show this bit here now, the 691. Okay. Right, so we've got this, and the Lord God caused to sprout from the ground every tree pleasant to see and good to eat, and the tree of the life in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Okay, 691. So we are in a state of rectifying from the sin of eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and taking us back up to this place in the Garden of Eden. The tree of life is a revelation of the name Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. Okay, I think I might have missed one. But anyway, and these are the last words of David, the saying of David, the son of Jesse, and the saying of the man raised on high, the anointed one of the God of Yaakov, and the sweet singer of Israel. That comes to an ordinal of 691. And this, by the way, 160 times 2 is Yishai. Well, we'll get to that. David ben Yishai comes to 386. So David ben Yishai, David son of Jesse, comes to 386, which is exactly the same as Yeshua. Okay, the 160 is the Kesef. Moshiach Ben Yosef needs to be redeemed from Esau. He was sold into Esau. He was sold for silver shekels. He'll have to be bought back by silver shekels. This is the whole concept of Pidyon Nefesh, as in the redeemed of the redeemed shall return to Zion. What we've just read. You've got to redeem. The redeemed of Israel will return to Zion. We've got to redeem him first. You know, and there are people in this world at this time, Orthodox Jews, that are organising this what's called a Pidyon Nefesh, redemption of the soul of Yeshua. And then we've got 81, Moshe filled out, is exactly the same as David ben Yishai. When David is rectified, this is the ordinal of David ben Yishai, is equal to 81. So we've got both Yeshua and Moshe again. We've got to unite the concepts of Mashiach together as one. And then we've got this again. Just to, alright, this is it. So that the ordinal and the regular of the 5 books of Torah come to 2,765. We've already gone through that, which is 4 times 691. This also, Al Panei Tahom, upon the face of the deep, and it was what was upon the face of the deep, Ruach Elohim, the Spirit of God, and the sages say that Spirit of God was Mashiach, okay, which clear indication is pointing towards that. 806 is 2 times 403. That's from another teaching. Okay, and with that, it'll come to an end. I do want to say, please subscribe, and there is another part to this, okay? I hope that you enjoy listening to it, and I hope you do get a chance to listen to it. So keep out for the next part, subscribe, and there's loads more glorious revelation to come. And I thank you for listening.